Good afternoon, my Paladins Pro Circuit friends. It is time for yet more action here amongst those who love to compete in one of our favorite games. It's Mitch and Kresnik that are here to be taking care of you here in this very first step, starting off as usual in Europe. So nothing too crazy happening here, but Kresnik, we have a whole slate of good sets lined up today.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely excited to be starting in the bloodbath that is the kind of the mid tiers of EU with Yoinkers Celestial, but Fatal Ambition Carnage, a 1-2 0-3 matchup with teams that probably shouldn't be down there, and then a potential top of the line NA game at the end with Sanguine versus Pickled Pepper, with roster changes kind of sprinkled all throughout between all the teams we're going to see today.
Yeah, a lot has been shifting kind of behind the scenes throughout these teams, so we'll try and make sure that we've got you caught up on those and what we notice as we move throughout those matches. So tons of exciting ones, and then obviously you'll get to see some of the rest of these matches that we're not showing today throughout the rest of the weekend, brought to you by Kresnik. Here are the standings for Europe, though. Clown Fiesta up at the top alongside Interstellar and Yoinkers, a 3-car pileup up there, and then down at the bottom, a similar reflection, Celestial, Mix, and Chroma Space all sitting at 1 and 2, so perhaps some clarity could come from this very first match, depending on how Yoinkers and Celestial go. Celestial could crowd things up at the top a little bit more, or maybe Yoinkers could create some space.
Yeah, and Yoinkers, with I think an interesting change for them, picking up a star player from a higher team, getting Prosper in rotating Etsu from DPS to tank, and actually benching Zarini. So some interesting choices, at least in terms of kind of role swapping around. I'm not sure how much experience they have on that role in Etsu, but they picked up Prosper, and we know how much of a monster he has been for them, and Jaguar Falls is a map where he can have a pretty solid performance, especially with all the characters in meta that he likes. Frog Isle, Shattered Desert bans for Celestial, Bazaar, and Ice Mines are the bans for Yoinkers, two kind of differently sided maps, but Jag, the standard map is where we're going to start, and this meta, a little bit more flexible. We're seeing a lot of this kind of double tank coming out when we didn't see it a lot before, but I still feel like you can kind of play anything, and I think both of these teams can do that, and they have that flexibility.
There is a lot to be valued at here. I'm a little bit surprised we won't be having an ice fight here today, but maybe none of that slower pace. But as you were talking about, just in terms of how I think there's a lot of flexibility and viability in the way that you can approach the meta right now, Anara has kind of felt to me like one of those standouts in terms of your point tank. She feels pretty hard to contest with sometimes. Obviously, Seismic Crash is a nuts ability that she has in the back pocket as well. And we have seen the Vivians and the Victors of the world kind of rise up as well and start to control things. So we'll see how they get valued as it'll start off with some flanker energy here. Celestial making sure there will not be any Androxus deciding how this match goes.
Already maybe targeting Prosper if they want to do that, but I mean, they have Prosper and Logi, both people that can play that Androxus very well, with Yoinkers kind of sticking with that EU standard right now, banning away Ruckus, and Celestial respond with the Vivian. And that's not only banning away from Yoinkers, it's kind of banning away from themselves. They have had a roster change of their own. This is probably the most surprising one, I think, of the day. Personally, Otev is out, and Cool is in. Our Cool from Sanguine, from North America, playing for Celestial. So targeting hit scans kind of targets himself as well, but Yoinkers get rid of Atlas and pocket support. No surprise, I think, with how strong they are right now. Genos is going to be their first pick.
Yeah, and probably just the best one too, right? Genos feels really strong,
Oh, yeah.
though Corvus might be able to make a pretty good case for himself, but the damage amp at times can be unmatched from what Genos can do, so a fine first pick here for Celestial. Meanwhile, Yoinkers taking a bit of a look here towards their front line with this Ashe being picked up, who feels like a lot of the times a little bit more like an off-tank, but we'll see how it's played here. Maybe this Ashe will be trying to sit on the point as well. A Victor comes in alongside it, and a world where Vivian has already been taken out. This Victor might go a little bit unchecked, man. I mean, this is a strong first two here for Yoinkers.
This is a map where you can play Tyra, though. Sometimes I think you might even prefer it, depending on the enemy draft, and that Tyra might have handled this Xin a little bit better. That aggression is kind of where Victor can falter, but if they can have enough pressure on the other sides that makes space for this Victor to free fire, he will do a lot. Grenades around corners, kind of good on this close range map. His raw damage output, of course, can't be matched, along with that insane sustain he gets combining Predator 5 and just life from the item store. But I like the pairing of the Xin with the Genos damage boost on Yomi or on the Heavy Swing in general is going to be great, and want to get a little bit extra sustain. Now they're not really limited in what tanks they want to pick up.
Yeah, exactly. This is going to make them pretty difficult to take down, right? Obviously, the Genos for the pocket healing, but the Grover between the Whirlwind, just kind of the passive AoE healing that you're getting out from him is pretty strong. And some of that CC can be strong from it too. Grover just feels strong right now, and you have all this damage coming from Zen, depending on how they want to build him. We'll get a chance to see where he is going a little bit later on. But here is who I have fallen slowly in love with, this Inara pickup over here for Yoinkers. You pair that with the Ashe and the Damba, who is one of the best, I feel like, tank healers, on-point healers out there right now, and Yoinkers are saying, come fight us here. We're saying that you can't move us.
And taking this Inara away from the Genos Grover, I think, is a big save, because you have that sustain, that you're not pairing it with a double support, and having a Damba to put with it is great. Speed Spirits on Damba gives that Inara 25% movement speed if she wants to get aggressive, and just has solid pockets in general. That Strix will make it a little tough if she is just able to get free-fired on by him. Yoinkers, they still have a flank they could pick up. I mean, Talus is still available if they wanted to play any of the more mobile flankers, and Eevee or Maeve. They can walk at that Strix, but they're going to have to also deal with a solo tank Rom running into their backline.
Yeah, but wasn't it already going to be pretty good trying to prioritize Caught here? I mean, I feel like Rom's so reliant on his own healing that maybe this is kind of tripling down on it, but still, Rom feels hard enough to kill at times when he's not getting Genos and Grover. How do you expect this Celestial draft to end up working out?
I'm not sure. I guess they have a target to dive now. I wanted them to have a flanker, though, to deal with this backline, but they're just going to go Victor Knessa, play far back, kind of leave the Inara sort of on an island with those long-range heals, and hope they can burn down the Rom and the Xin, diving the backline fast enough to rotate back into the point.
Yeah, I wonder if it's going to be coming up to this Ashe, right? How far forward is she going to be playing? You know, is it going to be something that's kind of happening on its own, or are they going to be working together? Wonder if this Knessa felt some pressure from this Strix. They wanted to have a sniper trying to match that presence as well. But already, just with the picks and bans, things looking pretty interesting here between Celestial and Yoinkers. We're moving on to map number 1, Kresnik. And we're not exactly sure how this solo take Rom is going to work. How are you expecting to play this one here on Jaguar Falls?
I mean, they're going to have to play off of this Rom, kind of running it down. Or one strategy that we saw in the minor league this week was, and this is a weird one, so hear me out, please. Like, believe me for a moment here. Subservience Rom being played with a super death ball composition. So Subservience, for those of you who don't know, because you've probably never seen it, is, for anybody, because no one ever runs it, is the fragments that Rom drops will heal him and his teammates around him. So he can kind of give this extra death ball healing, do more sustain. We saw it actually work on this map in the minor league as, I believe, a solo tank with the rest of his team. But Enforcer, the standard is going to be what Celestial bring out to try to dive into this double backline. I will say, I don't think I've ever seen a sniper duel on Jaguar Falls, but first time for anything, and these are definitely the best specialists, I think, to be playing.
Whoa, and Logic comes out on top right at the beginning of the map. Cool. Gonna have to take a seat, and Yoinkers racking up some percent on the backside of it. We did see the Zen is gonna be taking this guillotine, so I'm interested to see exactly how he plans to take this Ashe or Inara out of the fights, but will he even get a chance? He's pinned in by the sniper fire coming out from Logic, and Slop will have to take a seat as well. Yoinkers came flying out of the gates on this one, and the Rom hasn't even gotten a chance to really do much anything yet.
I mean, he just jogged a circle, tracked it on his fitness app, and now he's just waiting for a chance to go in again. That's all he's really been able to do at this point, because Yoinkers just kind of sitting all on top of each other with too much damage for them to really engage on, and point control completely on their side. They touch, but they had to throw away their run just for it.
Slop has already gone down. Closar does get one kill, but all the trades now favoring out Yoinkers. This Damba doing a great job of keeping the Inara healed. Logic gets the double, and Toot Toot cannot afford to stay on the point. That's Yoinkers taking it pretty handily on this very first mid-fight. But now, Krez, the question becomes, do you like this Celestial draft a little bit more on defense? I don't know if the point fight was going to be their strength, but look at this for Prosper, the barrage being used to buy some space here to come around this corner and move their Inara up. They're getting aggressive already.
It did deny some poke, but I think if Yoinkers can get in and play on that outside, they have a really good draft for pushing this. They just have to actually cross that gap, and it looks like they're kind of giving it to him, and ult goes into the wall, and Etsu just still staying alive. No one on Celestial can push and actually fight this Inara.
recognizing that Toot's in the back. Prosper, alongside the Inara, come back to deal with him, makes out of there, though, with the dash. Pretty easy for him, but Prosper making life difficult for him alongside with this Kinessa. They are commanding these sight lines right now, though it does look like Celestial has finally pushed them back into a decent position where they can't force their way out, but Logi, yet again, he's been a nightmare, takes care of Slop this time, and the cart continues to roll forward here, Kresnik. This has been an almost relentless pace from Yoinkers, and look at this positioning from Logi, coming up to find some more snipes and earn them a bit more space.
Yeah, and they're just doing this with this really defensive comp. You wouldn't think they'd actually be playing it like this, but they're perfectly willing to. Good lad, putting on the pressure and assert dominance, takes down Cool.
Yeah, Etsu is the one that gets the final shot. Logi gets one for Slop there as well. Ultimate from the Genos coming through, but not doing a lot. Celestial only have 2 that are drawing breath right now. The rest of them are watching in grayscale as the cart starts to round this final corner. Very far pushed up is the Inara, and Logi has a great sightline to work with here. No way for the defense to come through, and Yoinkers with a very, very quick 2-0.
And that's exactly how they have to set up that fight. I guess makes sense why Goodlad was willing to go in so deep early. You get them all to turn at you, and then once Prosper and Logi can take that edge of the map, that cliffside where they can fire onto them, there's no way they can cross that gap in time. The dive from Celestial trying to pressure these backlines, just not effective. The damage you can see. Rom actually at the top, surprisingly enough for Celestial, but Toot and Slop just cannot cross this gap to get in and fight Logi, who is just dominating right now on a map that we wouldn't normally call a sniper map.
I wouldn't have either, but you're right. We're getting a duel here. Logi, really all of Yoinkers, 4 of them have the 2-level cot at their disposal. But Logi also gets the Haven, as does Prosper, to make these duels just a little bit more favorable for them. And that's not matched over there on the other side for Celestial. Of course, it is the Inara that's out there onto the point first, and Logi finding some angles. Looks like they recognize where the Zen's going to be trying to push through as well, but the Rom there to bunker bust a little bit so they can't hold their positions. Looks like even the ultimate coming out from him too, but there was no immediate follow-up, and Logi gets the shot onto Slop to take care of him. Meanwhile, the percentage continues to rack up. They're up to 40 and get the 3-man wipe, and all the Yoinkers still standing tall. I don't know if Celestial or even giving them much of a contest here. The Barrage getting next to no value.
God, I think maybe the comp from Celestial, if they had committed really hard to one style of play, it could have worked. They have this double support, and then they have this hard dive, but they at least get Etsu out of the way. But look at how long that fight ended up going. Yoinkers were capping the whole time, and they have no way to get in. Do Celestial. Yoinkers with their double backlane covering all the lanes. Prosper is just spamming ults. He's doing so much damage.
Yeah, he is. He's got him up constantly. I think that was great work from Etsu with the seismic crash to keep Toot from having any chance of finding a touch. Prosper, Logi, and Etsu all lighting up the kill feed as they continue to have this payload rolling. Look at Logi on the 12 streak, Prosper on the 10. They're just under no pressure. Finally, Toot's able to get back there to the sniper. It costs him his life, though, as Yoinker is able to keep right on rolling.
And if they can set up Prosper here, yep, exactly. Prosper immediately goes to face, knows where he has to be. A lot of damage done early, but without Logi, they can't really contest this Strix enough. They have to wait for the cart. Good lad can't go that far ahead. And they can't even catch him out with the barrage. Good positioning there by Cool to deny that. But the tanks are here, and so is Logi. They could engage now if they want, but probably gonna wait for them. And yep, now that Toot went in, they just run straight into the back. No one's stopping it.
Same strat from last time. Logi takes care of Cool. Good lad gets to the back line to make sure that the rest of Celestial can't come forward. We were wondering where the flank presence would come from. Well, it's Good lad on this Ash, it feels like, getting back there and disrupting, finding a double. A Slop and Toot both go down, and now Logi is in the perfect positioning. Prosper takes care of Cool. Yet again, these walls are keeping Celestial locked into their base, and even if they weren't, can you afford to come out into the storm of bullets that is awaiting you? Look where Etsu is right now. Look at this positioning from him. There's no chance for a touch. Finally, the Rom comes through to find something to keep them in this round for a minute, but not even the ultimate is enough. Yoinkers with a very quick 4-0. We're done just that quickly.
Yeah, just immediate turnaround from them is stopping them from touching. I gotta say, Etsu maybe needs to play, this is a minor thing, I thought he played really well in the NR by the end, but he did try to wall off a Rom ult at the end. That doesn't work. So clearly newer to the role, but still performing, I think, very well with how his team went. And look at this stat line. There is no question. Sometimes we see a team win and it's like, oh, wow, you can't even tell by the stats. I think this one is pretty obvious with how Yoinkers they had the game in control the entire time.
This draft was nasty, though, wasn't it? I mean, Etsu was uncontested on the point. Good Lad had the ability to go into the backline there for him, then Prosper and Logi just holding down the backline for him. First Blood getting the better of the opposition sniper by getting rid of Cool. And he started as he intended to go on. This was a rough match for the Strix pilot. Just didn't get to do much at all.
Yeah, he just got completely shut down the entire time because the rest of his team was trying to pressure, but they could just wait, kill him, and then no one was peeking other than Inara, who just lives. I think it was a bit of a mismatch. Maybe they go a double flanker, super aggro team. That can work with a solo tank ROM, but what they were trying to do, that ROM just felt so mismatched, because you see Tutu there alone on an island in front of a Kinessa. That is too much burst damage for even a ROM to live through.
No, there's just no way he'd be able to live through it in that situation, right? And we thought that maybe with the Genos and the Grover, they'd have enough sustain to where maybe the tanks weren't under this much pressure. But I think that's only in a world where they still had their Strix helping out, and he was taken out of the situation so early in a lot of those fights. But that is it for our first map. It's time to move on to Brightmarsh for map 2 and start to get ready for those picks and bans. I mean, hopefully Celestial can find a way to change the way the pace of this match here on Brightmarsh.
And I think it's smart for Celestial to go to a map that, for Yoinkers, excuse me, to go to a map that's so similar to what they just dominated on. I mean, Jaguar, Brightmarsh. Bright is a little more, I think, welcoming to some of that verticality because it has some more abusable styles with it. You can go over the roof on mid. You can play on top of that little smaller roof and the ones on the side. So a lot more verticality potential. And that's why they're going to get rid of that Ruckus still. That dive that can go straight into your backline with no one really contested, I think is smart to get rid of. And hey, Kinessa banned on Brightmarsh. That's just what you have to do against a team that can specialize in it so well.
Yeah, I think Logi earned that one with his performance back on map 1. I wonder if we'll see the Andro banned here. Again, it feels like if you're worried about verticality, that would be a good ban, but not going to be the case. The Genos and the Atlas taken out, so Yoinkers kind of have their pick here at this point. We didn't see Corvus picked up last time, so not being valued, and it looks like they want this Ashe. Good Lad played it well, so they want to go right back to it.
They get the, I guess, least counterable aggressive tank that's left after banning that Ruckus and that Atlas. Atlas, best counter to this Ashe dive. Get rid of it. Ruckus, potentially star above Ashe for some drafts. Get rid of that. We've kind of limited what Celestial can do unless they want to pick up that ROM that didn't perform that great for them last time. But this Androxus, you mentioned it before, it's going to be solid. On this map, go over the top. Just play on the side and poke and kind of get away easily. And deny that Victor, too. Get arguably one of the best backlines in the game, even with Vivian still open.
It is a bit scary, though, that Vivian is still out there, so Yoinkers have that chance to kind of match that presence, so to speak. Hard to match Barrage, even with Sentinel, though. Such a valuable ultimate. We saw the versatility with which it was used by Yoinkers on that last map. Looks like they want the Dom, but if they want, I wonder if the Inara makes some sense here for them, even before they start looking towards this back line. Secure that Ashe, Inara, and that frontline presence there, but it looks like they want the Terminus. They did want frontline here, but they went with the Terminus here instead.
Terminus, I mean, it's great to shut down kind of massive amounts of damage. So if they get Victor, if they get Vivian too, and maybe run a triple DPS, either way, Termin can just siphon on that Victor, deny all of that as long as they can keep their side of the map controlled, not let the Andro surround him. Terminus' biggest weakness is having to turn that siphon multiple ways. He shuts down all damage from one very specific lane. So if Yoinkers think they have better map control, Terminus, solid pick, but he can get outboxed pretty effectively by Inara. Just depends on the loadout that term comes in with. Maybe swing, siphon recharge on swing. If Inara puts down the Warder's Field, he can get up to like 24% back just by hitting her in the slow at the same time.
You know, it's interesting. We came in prioritizing mobility and verticality here for this map, but Yoinkers have seemed to have a different idea. It's really just been Celestial that have grabbed these ones with that ability to get around relatively quickly. Yoinkers will eventually grab that Vivian. I think that was to be expected. And now the Cassie here as well. So this is now twice where I think you say that Yoinkers have just foregone a traditional flank. Is that something that we're going to be seeing more of here, or maybe just a Yoinkers special?
I think it's fine on this map. In particular, when you can have kind of all the lanes being watched, when it's not that so wide where you might necessarily want someone to really be playing over there. They can play this style. They have Term and Ashe. They can play slow again. And into this Makoa, this is massive big game value for the Cassie, and that's a very big head on our favorite Turtle Boy, and Vivian will be hearing some bells ringing for sure every single time that Makoa tries to engage.
Gotta make things pretty difficult here for this Makoa, but Celestial still have this Anara, who at times can feel unmatched in her ability to control that midpoint. So we'll see how Yoinkers try and deal with it on the other side, since they had it working for them last time. Largely uncontested. A lot of the same tools here for Yoinkers, but a lot of a different look as well. It's Brightmarsh we're heading to for map number 2. And if you're Celestial, you are trying to forget that first map, trying to just focus here on Brightmarsh and hope that things go a little different.
I mean, definitely the best way to recover from a loss like that is when it's a complete stump, like it was last time. You can just say, all right, bad draft, GG, go next. We'll figure it out from there. So definitely happier that happened if I'm them, but definitely unhappy to have taken that L in the first place. Yoinkers are going to, I think, dominate their tree and just have Good Lad kind of controlling the far left side. Actually, no, they're going to stay split. Logi fighting on the left with Good Lad already. Kind of a death ball from Celestial getting punished by this map control taken by Yoinkers.
Yeah, have a little bit of backup coming through here as well with the Damba, and Prosper finds the first blood on this Vivian. Close and Cool gets some good answers back, though Logi gets one too. So without Etsu and Goodlad, though, going to be hard for Yoinkers to find any kind of mid control. This Anora should be able to move in uncontested. I thought so, but Celestial are on the complete retreat here at this point. Yoinkers do manage to find some control out of this, and Prosper even getting a bit aggressive with his positioning, forcing that reversal out. But now that the Makoa is back, maybe dropping back a little bit and giving up some of that frontline presence. But this is so much damage from Prosper back here. No one can afford to step out into that sight range from him because he is shredding Goodwall. Finally force him to reposition. The Makoa hook lands and Etsu removed, but it costs Tutu his life to do it.
And this Koa, we can see what he's going to be doing now all game. Going to be trying to kill this Terminus on point and deny that Siphon value when he's watching that one lane. Push actually great route to stop them from pushing so Cool can maintain this high ground, but no one can get on the point because of all this damage. Cool's already charged a barrage by destroying this Term so much.
And that has allowed for the Anara to make his way through and the Koa to get back in as well by forcing Yoinkers back into cover. But it's Celestial still racking up the percent. They make it up to 81 in their back pocket. Tutu trying to reclaim some ground, but Goodlad doing a great job of contesting. Logi gets rid of Cool, and that is so much of the damage for Celestial. Now a lot of it left onto the shoulders of this Androxus, and they're not even really stepping forward. Prosper gets rid of Xenos as well, and now they're all clumped up in this corner. Low HP. Tutu gets taken care of, and Yoinkers now starting to rack up a little bit here for him. Logi and Etsu move forward, and Yoinkers now with 5 in a row as Logi gets the double.
Finch, where was the Andro that mid? I felt like I never saw him actually being able to do anything because they kept the Koa with the team trying to hook the Terminus, losing that off-tank pressure on the side. Andro just couldn't do anything. He didn't want to go over the top, didn't have the Accursed Arm or anything to get that early burst damage, so they just gave up so much map control, and that's what really gave it them that mid-win. And Logi right now in window, also, again, uncontested on a flank and finds a pick on the off-tank.
Able to take care of Toot. I mean, it just feels difficult. Probably not easy for this Androxus playing into the Vivian and the Cassie. They don't have any trouble popping him out of the sky when he goes up. It looks like on this defense, though, Slop got to be able to find a bit of a rhythm. They're getting a couple of kills coming through in favor of Celestial and pushing Yoinkers back. They got a good deal of progress on that cart initially, but now if they want to try and find a way to get back to it, going to be difficult. Celestial on a really aggressive defense, a really aggressive zone at this point, keeping them pushed out.
And this snowball, I think, is almost purely because of that hook that was landed on Prosper, followed up by the root. They expected to have Prosper that Vivian damage there. Now that it's gone, they can't go as far forward as they wanted. Look at this. They're still trying to push them out. Slop, considering, I think, ulting, but now kind of caught out with the tanks taking all that space. But great peel by Toot. Should get Slop out alive, but not with Prosper waiting on the wings.
Wow, that's impressive because you're right. Slop did have some help coming through from that Makoa. Prosper gets 2, and Logi is all they trade out for. So they can still earn some ground as long as Prosper can push with them. If they can lock out Cool here, then that makes it so much easier. But able to make it out of there with that sprint, with some healing coming his way. So Cool gets to the back, but that doesn't mean they have to fall off this cart here for now. And Yoinkers can get right back on offense, right back into position, even putting some decent damage into the back of this Anara. But Celestial should be able to reestablish their defense here, and try and make this difficult for Yoinkers.
The health on Yoinkers is actually real low because Friezo is completely just isolated line of sight-wise. Good Lad stuck in the middle of him. I think actually used the Assert Dominance, but look at this. Slop just came over. The pressure from main was perfect from Celestial. The Slop going down to that shoulder bash. This is just a staggered kill now, and honestly, unless Yoinkers, they don't have a flanker. They don't have any way to slip someone past them. Best chance of that would have been that Ashe, but last person to go down was Good Lad, so just a defensive hold now from Celestial. I think them pushing main was exactly what they had to do. Isolate that Dom, but don't let them get eyes on the healers. And actually, they managed to get the touch on point, but they had to give up their Dom to do it.
They did manage to get that touch, but how long can they hold it? Good Lad now here to help hold it down for them as well. Etsu is so low over there at the corner. Seems unlikely that any kind of conversion could come through here for Yoinkers at this point, especially now that Good Lad has gone down, Prosper as well. So Celestial get their first point of the set on the board after getting 4-0'd on map 1. Now here on Brightmarsh, able to go 1-1 with the defense. And remember, Kresnik, the mid fight was pretty close as well. That was back and forth. So if I'm Celestial, I'm feeling way better about my chances here on Brightmarsh.
Yeah, especially with the confidence boost of having those streaks rack up from being on defense. But Celestial have to just ignore the turn for a little bit and make space. At the very least, your Inara will last long enough for you to fight on one side of the map and then come back. Your Inara's not going to just crumple like paper, like running an off tank on point like a Ruckus point tank would have been. You can have this time to fight on the side with Tutu, with Slop, especially with the Ancient Rage potentially backing him up. That's a whole health reset and a health doubler, effectively, that can have them push out this side lane and actually take map control for once on a mid fight.
Well, Celestial have those cots basically fully stacked at this point, ready to fight, as a seismic crash does end up finding Good Lad from the point. Closar weaving it in there. That does end up getting the kill onto the Ashe. They lose Cool, though, for it, but this fight favoring Celestial. They take Good Lad and Logi and are able to push the last couple of members back out of here and have complete control over this mid-fight. They stormed their way through by dropping ultimates right out of the gate. Slop having a better fight this time, too. And Yoinkers now going to have to find a way to get some kind of retouch here, but whose job is it? I mean, is it Good Lad? This is not going to be easy.
He can't really do it. Look at that CC hook into a root, completely denies it, and he also didn't have the assert dominance. He used it to try to convert, so even if he made it, there's no guarantee he's living for any long amount of time. The decision by Celestial, so fast. They send Tutu on the right side with Ancient Rage, Seismic Crash to follow it up, Accursed Arm point blank, and being decisive was what won them that, but indecisive holding back his Tutu. Netsu punishes that.
And Etsu wanting to keep this fight going, choosing to maintain this aggressive positioning by using that reanimate and continuing to push a little bit further forward. It's working out for him now as he gets his way there to Cool. Does get caught out, though, by Tutu. As long as that hook is available, then Etsu's job is going to get that much more difficult. Now Tutu can start pushing forward a little bit. Recognize there's more Yoinkers there, perhaps, than he thought, so ends up getting pushed right back out. But the Yoinkers starting to hold on to this defense, keeping them stuck here in this neutral territory, at least a little bit longer.
Good Lad actually used the assert dominance during that, by the way, just to stun Slop on high ground and then leave. He just tried to do something, but not enough, I guess, to turn things around, but at least they stabilize for a little bit. Good Lad runs away. Cool, kind of unpressured by Good Lad, but forces them out for now in a stalemate. I think they need to take tree. Only Etsu's there right now. Their backlines should be able to abuse that. Accursed Arm kind of punishing them right now, and no one can really fight back this Andrew.
No, Yoinkers are going to have to give up this positioning, and Celestial have earned it. They've had great ultimate usage here on Brightmarsh, haven't they, Celestial? It's been working well for them so far, as that has opened up the door for them to start pushing a little bit further on here on this offense. Logi off to the side, getting healed up quite nicely by Friezo. They want to step forward, though. Dread Serpent coming out. Prosper takes care of Closar. They've got Tutu left over as well, but over the top comes the Androxus. Does get at least a 1 kill onto the Damba, but isn't good for 2. Logi takes care of him there, and Yoinkers hold on with this defense, find the reset, and push Celestial out.
Minor thing from Yoinkers, I'm going to mention it now, but if they had all stayed low, if they had all shot and canceled their out-of-combat healing, they actually could have given Friezo a bunch of ult charge when he came back. They could have just given him all that healing to boost his ult after spending it to get that defense, but minor thing, probably focused on the game, and they should be with a seismic crash coming right in, followed up by a hook.
That's easy. Slop gets the credit for it, but that was all set up for him by the front line. Takes Prosper, goes down 2, and that is it for the backline damage there for Yoinkers. That's why they're falling back, and Slop has made his way behind them now to find the shots. You warned about this exact danger here coming out for Yoinkers, and Slop finally able to make it happen. Now can Yoinkers find any way back out of their base to get a touch here, or will this be the conversion for Celestial? They're still a good bit out, though. Not going to find it quite that easily. The hook not on the mark there for Tutu as well, but they're rolling it forward. Good Lad makes his way out. Etsu here too, and they're just barely able to get in range in time, but they're both taking so much damage. Both the tanks go down right away, and Celestial gets a conversion. Indeed, it's 3-1.
And honestly, I'm hitting myself right now if I'm Tutu for killing that Ashe. in the middle of trying to use that assert dominance. Let her land, hook her off. She was the last tank left. Everyone else was low. You could just deny that ultimate from being in the next fight entirely, but now Yoinkers have more tricks in the pocket they can use here. They have that assert. They're going to have the reanimate soon, and basically everything available with Seismic Crash and Barrage both having to be used for Celestial to convert that. And double comeback on the side of Yoinkers. Maybe now Celestial just think, maybe we'll focus the point again. Maybe we'll try to play that side without that early Seismic Crash to engage. But then they're giving up the control on the side of the map again to Yoinkers. That won't work. They just have to hope that their Inara can live long enough in the face of a Terminus, and Grover Heal backing it. Maybe they spend the Whirlwind, and maybe they can actually convert this to a map win.
They've got quite a few tools in their back pocket and some room to work with, so if Celestial want to be a bit liberal with their ultimates here, I don't think that I'd blame them. 2-2 getting some help from Slop, but Slop gets locked down. Good lad gets the opening pick. Hook not connecting, but is still trying to hunt out Logi there to the side, but does not work. 2-2 ends up isolated, especially in the world where Slop goes down and he loses his life. Etsu falls too, but remember, he has the reanimate, spins it here, and all 5 members still standing on the point for Yoinkers. They've got the fast cap working. Etsu moving forward, trying to see if they can lock down this kill into the Inara, keeping this Androx being to help out, as well as Etsu, and already Yoinkers find the cap. That's what being down 3-1 and one good fight will do for you as Yoinkers commit the ultimates.
I will say, I want to clip that Ancient Rage from 2-2 and just call it the Makoa experience. That's what it's like sometimes. You miss one hook and you're just getting shot at by the entire team with 9,000 health and instantly dying. Pretty much exactly what it ends up being with Slop. I think he's on a strong performance right now, and he comes in, cleans up a couple more kills to help them kind of stabilize, but not enough to actually fight back Yoinkers and give them a reset, so they still have a chance to fight. And again, Apartment's given up completely. They're getting completely wrapped by Prosper right now.
Making life a lot harder here for them as Prosper does open up this space. And you gotta think, if you're Celestial in this point, this makes this map a little bit more difficult as the Whirlwind has to come out as well. They really want to hold on to this mid-ground. Seismic Crash lets them remove Prosper from that dangerous positioning, and now that has opened up the rest of the Xenos with a double, and that's a great use of ultimates that really broke up this offense from Yoinkers and stopped them from pushing. And that's what I was going to ask. If you're Celestial, how many ultimates do you want to commit on defense since you can't win the game there? They use them early enough that they can have them recharge for this next mid-fight.
Yeah, exactly. You can use as many as you want as long as it's before that minute-and-a-half mark, which, unless you're really not playing well, it's the safest time to guarantee you can charge it back. Huge. The hook-root combo is really changing the game, I think, for Celestial, and it's finding them so many picks they wouldn't have really gotten otherwise. Good lad could have gotten away, could have battering ram to soak some damage, but getting some guaranteed kills and Slop maybe oversteps a bit, but hook-root used in the wrong order actually ends up saving Logi's life.
Logi will gladly take that one as they get the kill. Toot. I was wondering how he'd make it out of there. The answer was he wasn't. Etsu catches up to him and shuts him down. So that means Celestial now we're on the back foot here for a bit, and I think that's why Etsu's getting aggressive. If they can get this kill into cool here, how huge would that be? But he gets some healing that keeps him standing for now and makes this much harder for Yoinkers. And now Yoinkers have the inverse of that same decision I talked about for Celestial earlier. How much do they want to commit on trying to find this conversion and potentially coming into a mid-fight without enough tools? Slop uses the Accursed Arm to take care of Logi, so they're willing to use some of these ultimates that charge up quickly to win the fight. They lock down Good Lad, Prosper, and Etsu, and this defense from Celestial is looking nasty. I don't know if Yoinkers is going to be able to get a conversion here on Brightmarsh.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be able to break through at all. I mean, they're getting forward zoned. I thought I saw someone else on the far left, but I think I might have been wrong. Nope, all 5 are in front, so no chance for Yoinkers at this point. Just hide to deny that Andro and that Victor any moral charge after they spent it earlier. But they might have spent it just a tad too late. 82%
yeah, I think so.
On the Inara, 77 on Cool. They don't have those ults that they kind of desperately need. But they're doing well. They're doing well in these point fights, I feel. They just needed to contest a little bit harder. Closar was playing too passive at the start and kind of let Etsu and Good Lad, they stacked both their tanks on the point and let them free cap, giving them like a 30-40% start to that, absolutely denying any chance they had of having a refight.
Now we'll have our chance to see how Celestial can do without some of those critical ultimates. They've really been reliant on that Seismic Crash in particular to set up here for them. So we'll see. I mean, it shouldn't be too long before they have it available, but will it already have been too late? Plus, Yoinkers won't have quite the same fast cap they had last time when they were looking at that 3-1. I mean, things got out of control in a hurry. It's going to be Closar and Etsu onto the point right away. No big surprise here. It's these battles over in Apartments that could potentially be the big difference maker. They've been sending Toot Toot and Slop together for the most part to try and earn some of that ground. Closar finally able to make his way here and slow down some of the cap. There's the seismic crash, and it does get the two-man stun to Good Lad and Prosper. So that's why Toot Toot goes forward. He and Cool find the kills, and what a difference maker this Inara ult has made here for Celestial so far. Basically getting the full team wipe and the hook that brings in Etsu. This was a sick fight from Celestial.
Perfect engagement, I think, there. They had to contest on point the entire time, so no percentage, even if they lose it, that single comeback not as important for Yoinkers, but they don't have comeback at all. They have to deny that retake right now from them. Yoinkers has the Assert Dominance coming up top, and Etsu's right in front of them. Even without the reanimate, they have an easy touch, and a Dread Serpent will start the engagement for them.
That does force everybody back out. The Whirlwind is there in response, though, from Celestial. They don't want to lose too many members, but it's not going to be enough to keep Cool up. Good pull in there, but that's Good Lad. Maybe not quite as good of a target as some of these other pulls have been. He lives throughout all of it, and Toot Toot barely surviving there on the backside of this fight is still standing. But look how much the percent's coming up. The Accursed Arm being charged by Slop, trying to get a kill into the left side of the fight, but that's not coming through either. Closar finally gets a wall down that keeps him alive, but Xenost falls at the back as Logi is able to take care of that kill. 96 to 90%, and Slop does finally remove the Cassie from this equation, but Yoinkers need this fight to go their way. Logi and Etsu both end up falling, but Prosper still standing. The overtime ticking back down, and Cool, he can't be the one that steps in for them here as well, so there will be yet another overtime as it's Xenos trying to keep this one extended, buying time for this Inara to make it in, but Yoinkers barely hold on there, Kresnik, and we're in the 3-3.
Oh, so unfortunate, I think, by Closar. He will have to wall himself off to stay alive. As soon as he puts up the wall to live, Cool pulls out the goggles to use that barrage. He can't hit anybody. He needs line of sight. So completely denied there is all of that damage that Cool could have done. Potentially, who knows what happened there. Good Lad falls to this aggression from Celestial. This death ball running forward, but they're going to have to walk through a Cassie and a Vivian, who are both getting actually fairly pressured back.
Toot Toot dies before the hook can go off that time. It's worked against Etsu very, very well so far throughout this map here on Brightmarsh. But if you're Celestial, you know you've had the defenses up until this point, Kresnik. It's a little bit more pressure when it's the 3-3 defense and the conversion cost you the game, but Cool getting caught out. Prosper and Logi are too much damage. Way into the backline goes Etsu. He gets pulled there, but he has just enough shielding and just enough healing to live throughout all of it. Toot Toot and Slop both fall on the backside. Closar as well. This is the best Yoinkers have looked on an offense yet, and Etsu able to make his way all the way up right outside spawn and keep them zoned. This could be the fight they needed.
And Etsu's actually getting charges off the spawn door. If someone's halfway in it, you can kind of absorb that damage into your siphon and get guaranteed charges. Barrage in, but it's not hitting anybody that's capping the cart. Etsu can just back up.
Etsu does end up falling, though, and that might be enough to stall this offense for Yoinkers just for a moment. Good Lad on the retreat. Prosper and Etsu both removed. And Celestial avert disaster, at least for now. But this cart's so close already. If Yoinkers can find a way to push past this zone, then they certainly have a chance to find the conversion here. Just a question of how many resources do you end up using? Because if you go back to the mid-fight without that seismic crash in particular for Celestial, we know how much harder that mid-fight is for.
They can maybe charge it. Closar can do a decent amount of damage, can bully pretty hard, but trying to get ult charge, he's gone to half HP and doesn't have the Earthen Guard anymore. So much damage, the Whirlwind ends up getting forced out.
But a Cursed Arm into the backline does force the Damba to retreat. Doesn't actually get any kills as Good Lad continues to aggress. Slop takes a ton of damage. It's enough for Good Lad to get the kill. Toot Toot's right in the middle of everything, though, but they already lost Xenot. Closar does get the kill into Etsu at the very least. And without their Terminus, this life gets that much harder, but he's willing to commit the reanimate here. They want to find this conversion. Toot Toot goes down as well. And I think that might have been the right call, Kresnik, with Toot Toot and Closar falling out. The Yoinkers are rolling in the cart. And what happened here on Brightmarsh? This was all Celestial at the start, but it's Yoinkers that are now up 2-0.
They just had some solid ultimates in what they tried to spend on the side of Celestial. They go straight up, try to do the Accursed Arm. They just push in. They push in past it. After that damage has been dealt, chip away at this Inara, trying to get that seismic crash they so desperately needed for the mid, and that opens up the push for them to roll it right in.
That's so impressive from Yoinkers. At one point down 3-1, then they find the mid-fight, can't get the conversion, another mid-fight into the conversion, and just like that, Celestial are staring at a 2-0 deficit. That's incredible, and they were doing so much work with Toot Toot being able to find these chains into the hooks, with Closar, with these seismic crash. The control was looking to be too much for Yoinkers, but they found a way to overwhelm them.
First blood.
They just completely flooded in near the end. This double backline, I think, really paid off, because what it does is it denies this tank aggression so effectively. I mean, Toot was getting a ton of value out of his hook, but he ended up going 8 and 16, because anytime you try to make a commitment like that to get a hook to open up a push for your team, you're against a big game Cassie and a Vivian. You're not getting out. Toot has to throw away his life, and Closar ends up effectively accidentally doing it in the end, because there's just too much damage. He's running this kind of, I wanted to mention this before because I couldn't really find a space for it. He's running this kind of interesting build with Caretaker 4, where he's all about this kind of healing and having to use his cards in fights to live a little bit longer. Once he doesn't have it, he's kind of not using that Water Spill to slow, not to do more damage. He can't win any of those fights because he's using all of his cooldowns to stay alive. Loses them, he falls.
Just a brutal map there on Brightmarsh, I gotta think, if you're Celestial. So I don't know which one does more mental damage. Kresnik, you said sometimes you can forget the stomps like we saw in the first map, but here on Brightmarsh, when you're up 3-1, you have all these chances to close it out. I don't know if that one's easier to forget or not. That one's got away on him a little bit.
The winnables hurt. The winnables hurt the most for sure, and definitely tough for them to come back from, but they have a map choice now, and they want to go to Stone Keep, so I think 3 of the most standard maps being played so far in this set.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned all the time, you can play any kind of style of play here on Stone Keep. So maybe Celestial think this is where they can outdraft, this is where they can out-adapt and maybe play some aggressive mobile flankers into this double backline style that Yoinkers have been favoring.
That's a good point. I wonder if Stone Keep gives them a couple more options to try and break that up. And we have seen Logi do a great job in the backline in both of these games, right? Anything they could do to get back there and try and disrupt him is going to be critical for them. We're into the picks and bans, though, so we already get to see how things change. Looks like Celestial not going to let the Canessa happen again, so Logi still getting a little bit of respect after that map 1 dominance he was able to show, plus Yoinkers continue to ban away the Ruckus. So it looks like these bans are staying fairly standard. Celestial don't want any Cypher. They're banning the Strix as well.
Hey, me either. Good. More props to him. I'd be doing the same thing against these players. Get rid of Canessa, get rid of Strix, and deal with backlines that you can react to. No real one-shot potential, or at least get super low and die to something else, chipping you potential from their side of the map. So Celestial, they have the first pick, and they're going to take away that Ashe that Yoinkers have been kind of relying on. I think it's great. Again, with those off-tank picks, Ashe can do so much. We've seen Good Lad get away with almost anything. Assert dominance, tough to deal with, so hard to deal with that they had to draft Makoa last time. Maybe they're hoping they can force Yoinkers to do the same thing.
I think that's a great point. Good Lad's been on it all set, right? And he's looked excellent on it so far. So try and get some disruption to that composition, I think makes some sense. So they've got the Ashe on their side. Yoinkers, though, say, hey, if Genos is up, we will take him happily. Well, we can make good use of that damage out. And this time, they finally do pick up the flanker. This is the first time this set we've seen them grab one, and it's the Androxus on Stone Keep. This makes a ton of sense to me. You can get a lot of accursed arm value on this map.
Yeah, and just his general poke, there's kind of open lanes that you can play safely on the side to poke and then engage when the time is right. So good to have that, plus the damage boost will make that fall off a little bit less awful to play around, so we can keep that distance and actually have meaningful damage going in. But Vivian up on the other side, she can deal with that Andro fairly well. It was pretty far in her favor, and Celestial want to just mirror that tank comp they just lost to. They saw the value in it. They're going to pick him up. Terminus, super, I think, consistent point tank. And there's a reason he's been getting banned in Europe when these teams can set up around him properly.
He was strong. I mean, we saw it. It was basically only the Makoa hook that was causing him problems on Brightmarsh, so he's strong right now. It almost feels like we're getting comp flips here from what we've seen throughout the rest of this set, as now it's the Victor Androxus and Genos from Yoinkers no longer prioritizing their tanks. But, hey, if you get to take something like an Anara this late in your draft, I doubt you're feeling bad about it. Instead, it's the Grover. So they have double support, double backline, and they'll have some kind of solo tank to try and make this work here for Yoinkers.
Yeah, and it could be a Nara unless they want to go triple tank on the side of Celestial, or it could be even Fernando if they want to play off of having that Immortal potentially to get extra aggressive. But Celestial, they pick up that Damba. They love having the speed spirits on all of those characters. I think 25% is great. And if that Andro dives, hey, Damba has possession 4 or 5. That's 20% potential damage reduction there. They have to burn through as well. And Shaolin looks like it's his first pick in EU, so rest of the world kind of catching up to this NA and BR meta. We've been seeing Sandtrap 1300 burst damage, cripple whoever it hits, a lot you can get out of it, and really hard to duel into if you don't already have a healing or damage advantage.
I don't know, man. Getting to 10th pick at Nara, it feels pretty good if I'm Yoinkers. Plus, they've got it paired with this Grover Genos and plenty of damage in the backline between the Androxes and the Victor. This feels like almost an entire flop from what we've seen these two teams prioritize up to this point in the pick ban phase. So we get a chance to see which team can make it work better on the other side. Celestial has prioritized flankers up until now. First time they come in here without one. Yoinkers has disregarded them, prioritized tanks. But I think it's the first time we're seeing them solo tank here this time with the Nara handling all of that responsibility. Excited to see how these two styles get switched around, end up working here on Stone Keep.
We'll end up seeing which team is going to be more flexible, but my eyes personally are on, I think, the tank line for Celestial on Stone Keep, specifically because of this Terminus. Great on Brightmarsh, great when you can't really get around him as easily when you can control the map, but there are a lot of ways to poke and prod at that Terminus and make him turn heads, especially when you have an Andro on the side of the other team. It's a hard matchup that I think they're going to have to go through, but we'll see how much map control Celestial can have with that double tank. Harder to burn through when you only have those 2 damages and you're focusing kind of on sustain from the draft on Yoinkers.
And we're really going to have to see this Shah step up, I'm thinking here, for less Celestial as well. They're going to need a lot of value from them. Slopodopolis and Toot Toot have moved together a lot throughout this set, so I'll keep my eye on if they choose to do the same thing here. Prosper, though, already putting out some damage. Looks like keep side fight happening to start things off, but the Yoinkers aren't going to commit too heavily to it. Instead, they've got Good Lad over on Church trying to contest theirs. Celestial move a lot of their resources over to contest them on that lane instead. And that has kept the Yoinkers out of this fight almost entirely so far. Lots of poke coming out, though, as Toot Toot ends up low as well, and maybe Yoinkers can start to aggress on the back of that. They move in with Good Lad. In comes the Androxus behind it, and they don't know which direction to look. There's so much damage. Good Lad able to take care of Closar first. Toot Toot left stuck in all the scrum, trying to figure out where to go, and he falls as well. Yoinkers wait, they bide their time, and then they collapse, overwhelm Celestial, and they're on to the midpoint first.
This timing is tough for Celestial if they don't fall. Oh, Logi misses and almost dies instantly to a Vivian. But look at this collapse from Yoinkers. They're just going to cap the point, follow up, finish these kills with cool falling. This is exactly what you need to deny a potential retake. Closar can still touch, but now they're going to have to do it without a Vivian and with banana control completely given up to Good Lad. Looks like Toot Toot's going to try to do it, but a grip. Toot Toot walking in. He'll land, but he won't live much longer.
No, he barely even got the touch, didn't he? That means Yoinkers in a great position now to try and find this cap. Lodge getting the double over the top. Maybe Cool could force his way in. That's why I said maybe. Prosper turned that into a no pretty quickly, and that's Yoinkers taking this first mid-fight pretty handily off the way they played that Church side there, Krez.
And I actually kind of liked how Celestial responded at the start. Their idea is just have Toot Toot shut down the main sources of damage, just run in and try to basically face tank it with Terminus. I think it's kind of how you have to play it, but I think Yoinkers just waited out the Siphon and then sending the Andro to turn him around. Just like I said, it's going to be the weakness. Paid off great for them, and Slop just didn't know Prosper was there.
He couldn't have. He was too busy looking at the Androxus and ended up taking a ton of damage from Prosper on the backside. But now they're challenging the high ground. They have the flank here to try and lock into this Ash, and there's nowhere for Closar to go. Cool falls as well. And all of a sudden, we're getting shades of map 1 here, aren't we, Krez? As Yoinkers starting to run over Celestial. They have this high ground control with Prosper's topside positioning. They've got Friezo as well as Logi down here on the cart to keep that moving as well. And Celestial is struggling just to move out of their spawn.
They have the top left control, though, which is key. You don't want to be getting spammed out from the high ground, but Yoinkers are already kind of in a spot to set up with Logi over here. Can't live too long against the backlines that they have, but he is putting a lot of damage on this turn.
That's it. They got the successful push. Once they got rid of Toot Toot, that cart rolled right on in. I think I heard the Dread Serpent come out there at the tail end, too. Yeah, you can see he's at 9%, so Celestial won't even have that to help out in this mid-fight.
Oh, that is the worst possible thing that could have happened. I was just, as soon as that happened, I'm looking around frantically. Where is Celestial? Where was Closar to replace Toot Toot? Toot took way too much damage. They should have been ready, but just failure to rotate back around to keep that contested. Logi, I think, doing a fantastic job out-damaging a Victor with a Genos boost right now, if you want to see how strongly he's playing. So Yoinkers, feels like everything's in their control, but Celestial, they were at least proactive last mid, and that could be enough to keep things potentially in their control. If they have this Ashe go in quickly onto this Death Ball and get a fast assert dominance, maybe this can work out. But this time, play Term on the low ground, deny that cap time, and keep him distracted. But here comes the assert dominance onto 2.
It ends up working, able to lock them both down in the back line, but there was not a ton of follow-up on the back of it. Tutu gets aggressive, though, recognizes Good Lad is low, and is able to find that kill. Logi in some trouble, too. Ultimate, not going to get a whole lot of value here from this Genos either, as Celestial start to rack up the percentage. Remember, they got the fast cap working, so they're going to get this quickly, and Yoinkers struggling to find a way to push back in for a touch. Celestial come out aggressively, and it's working, but now they've got Good Lad moving in on this Anara, slowly but surely making his way in. He does find the touch, and that means Yoinkers have stopped the bleeding, at least for now. Only for a moment, though. Good Lad gets deleted.
And they get the reanimate coming in, too. They're trying to do anything they can to kill this turn with a barrage even behind him as well. Etsu throwing his body onto the point, but no matter what picks they get at this point, I feel like it's a foregone conclusion that Celestial will win their first men on stone.
And they desperately needed it. Get helped a lot by that fast cap, but also just by their aggression that time. Willing to heavily commit to Good Lad. Slop gets the slight better Alaji in that little poke war that happened there in Church as well. That forced him to back up, and Slop then had better positioning on that shot as well. Not bad here from Celestial to try and bounce back. This has been a mentally destructive set, I would say, for them so far. So I love the way that they're staying strong here and fighting back in.
Yeah, and again, like I mentioned before that fight started, being proactive is what's going to win them that, and that's exactly what they did. They were just so aggressive with those ultimates. Klossar maybe feeling himself a little too much up top with a Grover on the other side to cancel out that shoulder bash. Celestial will have to retreat and re-heal. If they can avoid falling, they actually can refight this, but Tutu, I guess, doesn't trust Friezo to heal him up fast enough. He just falls. Xenost, actually, sorry. Doesn't trust him quite enough. Doesn't even know his name, apparently, according to me, and falls down, but Assert Dominance coming in, gets canceled, goes twice and stuns too.
And Good Lad willing to use the ultimate to make sure Slop ends up going down. That ends up working for him. Klossar's still alive somehow. He has been under a ton of trouble this game, but look at the healing coming through from this Grover. Good Lad is A-okay when the Whirlwind comes out, so that leaves Klossar isolated. Is able to take care of Logi on his way out, though, so not a horrible trade for him. But this has all got to favor the defense, right? All these staggers, all these trades are keeping Celestial from getting any kind of cohesive offense going, any kind of cohesive push. Now, Etsu getting aggressive topside. They recognize where Cool is. I think the Void Grip came out, and he ends up falling too.
I have never seen a Grover be so willing to dive a Vivian at point-blank range in my life. And I can say I've seen everything now. I mean, you don't do that to a Vivian unless you're Etsu. I feel like this is just deathmatch inside the church at this point. They just keep running in to feed into them, but the health trades are constantly in favor of Yoinkers with this double support.
Of course they are. It's all in favor of Yoinkers the way that this fight is happening right now. And Celestial, I feel like they need to slow down. They need to regroup. They keep trying to force their way in for these low HP targets as if there isn't all this sustain in the back pocket for Yoinkers. They might be able, remember, it's only 2-1. They'll get a point off this defense, and all of a sudden they'll come into the mid-fight 3-1. Celestial were looking good, but they might be on the back foot all of a sudden.
Yeah, after such a good start, but I mean, if they're willing, if they charge up ultimates and save them, they could make it happen, but they're missing the one ultimate that really won them that fight the first time, that Assert Dominance. This Ashe not doing enough damage in this stalemate and actually using that ult a little bit late, I think, on that push. So now Yoinkers looking to close this out. If Celestial can't really find an answer, they do have a Dread Serpent though, so a big group CC, maybe it's enough if they can find a solid angle for it. Interesting pick of a build here by Slop. I really don't see a lot of Strike True or Mirage being run. Usually people kind of run the more passive buffs in terms of HP with Swagger, Wanderlust for movement speed, but he's focusing on having longer CC, getting just a little bit of healing when he hits people with that Sand Trap 1300, and apparently that's enough for him to win these 1v1s he's been taking.
Prosper still has not died, by the way. Full caught and 2 points into the resilience. My man's in a comfortable position right now. Another battle between Slop and Logi over here church side. Remember, Slop got the slight better of this last time, as maybe that's not exactly where we want that grenade to go, but the barrage should threaten Klossar. Either way, they get the kill right away, and Prosper keeps that streak going by taking care of the Ashe early on. That means they can turn all of their attention towards Toot Toot, and they get the last bit of damage there from the Genos. Able to get the Void Grip as well, coming onto the Vivian, who pushes forward and dies right away. A full wipe coming through here for Yoinkers. They completely push Celestial out, and now they're starting to rack up some percent of their own.
And they do have the Assert Dominance now, though, so they might be able to touch, but an Accursed Arm right over both tanks. Just cancel it, run away. Toot Toot staring you down, but he baits the Siphon, but he might fall. They're in front of the time and space, but it gets wasted.
Logi forces Toot Toot into this reanimate so we can keep this fight going. They do manage to get the touch as Closar forces his way through, way into the backline here with this assert dominance, but that's the ultimate on cooldown now for him as well. And Good Lad has once again taken care of Toot Toot, so Closar is all alone in the shooting range down here. That is the point. So there's all this damage coming in from multiple directions. No way he can live through all that. Slop has got to make something happen here for his team. They're in the overtime, but now it's going to start ticking in favor of Yoinkers as Good Lad gets the double, and they're starting to move back up. Once Slop falls, they should be able to move it up, but no, Celestial moved back in. Was that Toot Toot who got the twink getting capped for Celestial?
Oh no, Good Lad pushed up to finish off 1 kill. He thought it was the last person, but the overtime ran out as soon as he walked off, not at 99 yet. So overtime was still in favor of Celestial, so they just take it away. And now they have this high ground too, bully out Good Lad, who's just trying to hold this ground but can't do it for long.
And they needed that, didn't they, Celestial? That was huge. They were able to somehow find a way to hold on and win that mid-fight, or else this set could have come to a screeching halt right then and there in favor of Yoinkers. So now we can see how Celestial's offense can look here on this map. We really have not gotten to see a whole lot of it just yet. But really, we might not even get to see much more of it here. Toot Toot and Cool have pushed up a good deal to try and earn some space, but Yoinkers are right there waiting to keep them pushed back.
Look at this. They're willing to spend the Seismic Crash. I'm not sure if Good Lad will make it all the way over in time. He will. They wasted Seismic Crash just to get rid of the Sentinels on Vivian. That damage boost enough to spend this ultimate, but they did manage to kind of hold this defense on the back of that, picking that damage, getting rid of her, and now letting them get forward. They don't really have a ton of ability if they can catch this Ashe coming in from the side, so if Yoinkers can get a forward defense, they can really kind of stabilize things, but early 4-man death ball stops it, but they're just standing in front of Genos.
Whew, that was close. I like the idea. It was there for a moment, but they were aware of it and able to get out of there before it got too bad. Toot Toot is locked in, by the way. Good wall coming out from Good Lad. Almost enough for them to find that kill, but he gets plenty of healing and is able to stay topped up. But they are pinned down inside this church right now. Slop, though, might get the pick they knew. Etsu falls down in this Grover, but the reversal is allowing for Logi to push forward too. Toot Toot and Slop are just locked down. They can't afford to move out, and Prosper there eventually gets the double with a grenade. That takes care of Slop and Toot. Closar falls to Logi, and the defense coming up one more time here for Yoinkers. 30 seconds left for Celestial to regroup and try and find a way to get this conversion to work.
No shrapnel needed for that double kill from Prosper. You don't really see that happen every day, but we see a lot of different things in the PPC. Look at this keep control right now from Yoinkers. They want to hold this high ground, give up Church for now, but the card's moved far enough back where they can fight it. But Good Lad maybe biting off more than he can chew with Logi also isolated. They need to line of sight either of their healers to get healed up, and they lose Logi to try to hold this space.
Toot Toot doing good work there to make sure he doesn't end up getting it. Good Lad is very far forward, and it does work. They get Xenos, but this should allow Celestial to make something happen here with this overtime while they're waiting on Good Lad to make his way back out. Remember, that is the only tank for Yoinkers this time. So every time he's down, the card should get plenty of movement out of it. Prosper is kind of walking by all that nonsense happening to the left, tries to bum rush Cool, but does not get the better of that trade. Toot Toot waiting to decide. Looks like he does not choose to end up using that ultimate, so he'll be coming back the hard way, and that means Yoinkers should have an easier time holding on right now.
Yeah, it looks like if they're not willing to spend that, I don't know what else they're willing to spend, because they want to assert dominance too, but actually Toot Toot, look, he makes it back in time, just in time to save Closar, but no one on Yoinkers is really under threat at all outside of this flank from Cool.
Well, it does end up forcing the barrage out from them, which is at least something as Yoinkers do get the successful defense. I think that writing was on the wall there for a while there, but at least getting some of those ultimates out from Yoinkers is pretty worth for Celestial. They'll come in with all 5 ultimates for this next mid-fight.
And I know it's going to charge fast, but I think them not having the Whirlwind immediately could kind of open the door for Celestial to be super aggressive. I feel like Etsu has kind of been very impactful every time he's ended up popping that ultimate. And not having it means that Assert Dominance won't have an answer. The Dread Serpent maybe won't have an answer either. The numbers right now on Celestial, the KDA is not looking too good, but they've been, I think, very proactive on these mids. And now Yoinkers don't have a way to counter that with a reactive ultimate.
Let's see where Yoinkers elect to go. We're getting close to going the distance into this one. A lot of keep from Celestial. It's mostly Church here from Yoinkers. They sent a lot over to that side. Looks like a bit of recognition coming out from Closar, but the Seismic Crash locks him down. He makes his way all the way to the back line, though, with the Assert Dominance does this Ashe. The Dread Serpent there as well, and that does mean they're able to eventually take care of Friezo, able to take care of this Genos, and that buys a ton of space for him. They've got 60% and climbing here on the back of all that ultimate usage from Selestial. But there's the Whirlwind. You talked about how critical it'd be. It finally does end up coming out from Yoinkers, but can they even get a touch out of it? The answer is yes. They do manage to get Good Lad all the way there to try and stop this percent from racking up, but he ends up falling too. Toot takes care of him, and Yoinkers starting to struggle in these mid-fights. That should be it for Selestial. Yes, they get the capture in the mids over already.
Good Lad actually took a little bit of early damage that forced the Whirlwind to come out when it did. Maybe they could have held off and made it happen at a more critical time once he actually got to the objective, because Good Lad made it and then died immediately after because they didn't have that extra healing follow-up. Genos Grover, outside of the little bit of burst from Grover, they're both kind of these passive healers, really need that ultimate to bulk up their sustain with this double support composition. Celestial can't really be contested quite yet, although they're not holding up top as effectively. They might be able to have Prosper push through and control that, but look at this, look how aggressive Toot is. He wants to find Logi and he gets it.
Able to take care of him. Good Lad does get Toot in response though, but Celestial have gotten a ton of progress off this ultimate, but a great ultimate coming out from the Genos to completely nullify that reanimate. Etsu was there with him too, but look how far back Yoinkers are still pushed even with that. That's why Logi has to go up, trying to take care of Slop. He hits all 3 shots, and Slop gets put down as well. So Yoinkers aren't done just yet. They managed to hold on to this defense, and they get rid of Closar here as well, stagger him out a bit. That makes this even easier. A lot of time left on the clock, though, for Celestial to work with.
Yeah, you're not feeling good about that reanimate if you're Toot. He's probably just fiending for some damage now. He's got to get it somehow, basically. Just gave more credits to Yoinkers, but look at this positioning by Logi. He's getting some good poke, I think, from this church side, playing this angle. This is what you can do as Andro, as one of the flankers who really has some good long-range poke. Prosper maybe oversteps. They're kind of reeling back, and the Dread Serpent might chase them down, but they're far enough out.
That hurts him a lot, losing Prosper there. Great work from Slop. He has not won a lot of those battles throughout this set, I feel like, when he and Prosper have gone toe-to-toe, but shows up for them here when a conversion would keep them in this set. Cool, gets rid of the Genos. Logi falls as well. Good Lad does take care of the Dom by healing, but this still heavily favors Celestial if they want to try and keep pushing. But they're starting to fall back a little bit. Slop is low. Closar incredibly low as well. Even with those kills coming through, it wasn't clean enough for them to be able to keep pushing, and Yoinkers find yet another defense.
They lost Xenost early. They traded support for support, but guess what? Yoinkers have too. So they were able to stay re-healed because of this Grover, and the damage that Celestial was doing just wasn't sticking. They still have a chance to do this, depending on what else they're willing to spend, but with their set potentially on the line, if they don't win this map, I think they're going to be a little conservative. They get an early pick. Maybe they might be willing to try to end it here.
Have gotten rid of Etsu. Closar goes aggressive to the backline with the assert dominance to try and keep even more members out, but Prosper still using damage. Shoulder bash pushes him back out. This could be enough, but Good Lad was able to step forward to get rid of Toot. He did not get enough charge for that reanimate, and Closar is the only one up here. That should be enough for the successful defense coming out from Yoinkers. And so we find ourselves on the 3-3 mid-fight. I can't believe it made it all the way here, but here we are.
Look at these damage charts right now. Prosper,
absurd.
17-4, almost 200k damage. It is a 3-3, but he's just been doing a ton, shooting around Ash Shield and Term Siphon to make that happen with damage, I think, just firmly in general in favor of Yoinkers, which is, I think, to be expected when you have double support and one of those supports giving your entire team 15% more damage. But so hard for Celestial right now. I feel like they've been winning their mid-fights off of great ultimate usage, using them very aggressive. And now they have none of that. And they have none of those resources to use. Only the Dread Serpent potentially for Celestial, and they might have to use it just to stop people from cleaning up on however much damage Logi's going to get with this Accursed Arm.
Yeah, I mean, that was risky trying to go for that conversion there from Celestial. They committed a lot to make it happen, and I think they're about to reap the benefits of that on the side of Yoinkers. Logi takes care of Toot very early on in this battle, now doing the side peeks, finding some damage, but isn't able to do much more than that. There's that Accursed Arm, though, coming out, but Slop handles it instantly. Logi gets dealt with and sent to the grave, so maybe Yoinkers have to fall back after all.
They are trying to run away, barely actually, almost getting juggled by the booby trap. They're all running away. Their health is so low, but double support will get them topped back off. Do they see Closar here? He might be too far forward, actually. Half HP. You don't have the assert dominance. They have CC. Closar just throws his life away, and Yoinkers get to take a 5v4.
It ends up being a double. Cool falls as well. That cost them so much. Slapatopoulos ends up falling too. Tucci over to the side. Cannot get the better of Logi. And just like that, Yoinkers have all 5 members out on the point, and Celestial are left to pick up the scraps. How are they going to push through this aggressive zoning here from Yoinkers? How do they keep their set hopes alive here as Clostar getting bullied off to the side by Logi, who somehow manages to get out of there and stay alive? Reversal lets him get back towards cover. 99% in climbing, and Yoinkers take care of the set 3-0.
And some people were talking about that roster change, saying, oh, maybe they need to keep Zarini. Clearly, whatever they've done has been a solid change for them.
Yep.
Looking so strong against Celestial with a change of their own, but I'd say a more lateral change, but they just looked so strong here. Prosper, the newest player, 20-4. And Etsu on this Grover, I think, having a solid performance too.
I mean, you don't have a performance like this, a set like this, if everyone isn't playing well. And everyone for Yoinkers was playing well. And Celestial had these moments, right? They took 2 maps all the way to the distance and just couldn't find that last bit to close it out. I know map 1 was a blowout, but kind of take that from your memory. And Celestial really gave Yoinkers a good match here. They just could not get the better of them in the end. And how many times did Slop go up against Prosper and end up getting taken down? Or how many times was Tutu trying to be that aggressive off tank and he got shut down too? So little of what Celestial wanted to do was working for him.
Yeah, every time they tried to make space, just, I think, countered out. And I think the Andro was a key part of it. Being able to play as a backline with flanker mobility, I think, really opened the door for a lot of things Yoinkers wanted to do. Because on that last mid, we saw Tutu fall early. Oh, point control goes up to Yoinkers, right? Who does it? It's Logi sitting passively in the church, hitting for 600 every time he manages to get a headshot. So much flexibility in that pick, and I think it let them have more answers to what Celestial was doing as the game went on.
It did, man, and they kind of flipped the script with the picks and bans here on Stone Keep, as plenty of good seismic crashes happened throughout this set. We had seen earlier on Yoinkers prioritizing the double front line, prioritizing this double back line without the flankers for them. But they switched it up here on Stone Keep. They went single tank with this Inara. They made their double back line the Victor and the Androxus. They were able to make it work. And now Yoinkers, at least for now, with one more game played, sit atop your standings. Though obviously Interstellar and Clown Fiesta will have their chance to even things up. But you cannot afford to overlook this Yoinkers team right now. They're looking strong.
Oh yeah, especially after the changes. I mean, Celestial, they were one of the best teams before at the bottom, but now that they're down there, they still looked solid on most of the maps against Yoinkers, but Yoinkers clearly looking great with these changes. And I think EU is just, as a region, is so close to call, and I can't wait to see the next 2 matchups in the next couple of days.
I think that you're right to highlight that Celestial took all those maps close, except the first one. It was very, very close this set, and Yoinkers just barely were able to edge out the win. We're going to be going into Brazil next. That'll be the Fatal Ambition and Carnage map that we'll be looking at here next. And Fatal Ambition had some struggles here up to this point here, Kresnik. Do you expect that things might look a little bit better for them in their set here up against Carnage?
They've been looking decent at the very least. They are taking these teams kind of further in these maps, but just like last phase, they can't close out maps. And Carnage, one of the top teams last phase, looking rough at the start, but they've shown they can close it. Fatal Ambition, if they've learned that, this could be a close game.
A strong team, but maybe just not quite able to get all the way there. We'll certainly see how it ends up working out, though. Brazil going to be coming up next.